Everyone wants to leave a legacy of positivity in the world around them. Whether you are a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, a nonprofit executive director, or even a soon-to-be entrepreneur, one fact is always true. The easiest and most effective way to catalyze change in the world around you is through commerce and through business. But how do you do it? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Changemakers Collective, a place where people can come and get educated and encouraged and empowered to be the impact agent in the world around them. Brought to you by Silverback Ventures, Steff Thomas and Scott Woods have over 50 years combined experience helping companies and owners amplify the voice and multiply the impact of purpose-driven businesses. Join us each week as we discuss what it means to live a life of purpose on purpose.
Welcome back to Changemakers Collectives. I am Steff, and that is my wonderful partner, Scott.
I'm losing it over here.
I wouldn't give him so many opportunities to laugh at me, not with me.
Too bad you are not in the room because there's all kinds of craziness going on in the background.
Okay, so we, if you are following us and subscribe
Which you
to
should.
us,
you absolutely should because you're missing out if you don't.
You're missing out. We did an episode on strategic planning and we referenced agility planning.
Mm-hmm.
So strategic planning is your year plan, the big rock. Agility planning is how you manage that in smaller bite-sized pieces. And that looks at weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual rhythm.
5 minutes ago. We're going to break it down to what are you doing in the next 30 seconds.
What did you do this morning?
No, but I think it's important to recognize that you're going to come out of that strategic planning meeting with 3 big goals that you're trying to accomplish. If there is not a subsequent understanding of the milestones to get to those 3 things and the timelines, we always end our sessions with SMART goals around how do you accomplish the next 30 days? What percentage of that goal is going to get accomplished in the next 30 days? Break it down to 12 months, or break it down to quarters, break it down to 12 months, break it down to weekly in some respects. What are the activities that everybody from the line level all the way up to the executive level understand are going to get us closer to the goal?
One of the things that we were talking about in the strategic planning is that as leaders, the leaders hold the line, right? They keep the strategic goal in their mindset. They have powerful questions and conversations that do not kill innovation and productivity. So that's how they're forming the culture of the team, almost a project-minded culture, while the employees have to take on a zoom in and zoom out mentality. They're looking at, okay, that is still where we're going. This is what we're doing today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that inbox-outbox syndrome is okay if it's managed well, right? So you're going to have, as we referenced in the last episode, you're going to have cooks, and you need cooks that are going to do all of the chopping and do all the day-to-day operational stuff. They don't necessarily, in their own minds, care about the vision casting because they know all I want to do is come in, do my 9 to 5, and I want to go. What successful companies do is to help the line level folks understand you coming in and doing your 9 to 5 with excellence and accomplishing these goals helps us to get closer to our corporate goals and gets us closer to our agile goals and that are milestones for getting us closer to the big goal. That's a lot of closer.
One of the things that is important when you're doing your strategic goal and planning session, you are worried about time, people, and resources.
Okay.
When you are doing your agility planning, you take those out of it. You're looking at what do we need to experiment with? What on a low level do we need to tweak? So if you're doing that along the way, when you get to the end goal, you know if you're hitting your mile markers or not.
Okay, so help me understand. Are you saying that the agility planning, you just said it takes away the conversation around time, resources, and
Because that's already
people?
in place.
Okay, so are you planning for changes, or is agility planning really around these incremental steps in order to get to the bigger goal?
Yes to both. So why I say yes to both? The whole idea is much like rhythm, and we've talked about the book Rhythm by
Patrick Thean. Yep.
So if you know what your big rock is, your big goal, your Mount Everest for the strategic plan
Right.
is.
So your 3 to 5 goals for the year.
Yes. If you do not have a rhythm in place or, a process, so to speak, in place that you're doing check-ins along the way, then you get to the end of the year and you're like, well, we didn't do that.
Yeah, we're 10% to our goal.
Right.
So you have to have the miles. So you're talking your agility planning is planning for the milestones along the way.
Yes.
Okay.
At the same time, when you are meeting and saying this is working, this is not working, when you have an agility plan, you can then tweak that. And if you need to pivot, you can pivot. But if you need to add to or take away from, or those little meetings or those agility planning meetings help you get the best out of, are we making it to our goal?
It almost sounds like you're doing two different things at once. You have your incremental goals that are somewhat the metrics that you're measuring against on a weekly, quarterly, monthly basis.
And it's important to know that when you come out of your strategic plan, you have those incremental goals in place.
Absolutely, yes.
They are in place.
If you don't, you have the wrong third party facilitating your meeting.
Yes.
Yes, you absolutely should have milestones that you are measuring against at a periodic time frame that works with your business.
We call that SMART goals.
Yeah, some businesses it's going to be quarterly, some businesses it's going to be monthly. We like to think of more monthly because you're getting more regular check-ins so that you can be agile if something's not working.
Right.
And you can react. So the second part of that agility planning is having a structure around what happens if you're halfway through the month and there's apparently no chance that you're going to get to your milestone.
Well, no, or let's say that all your money went away.
But what I'm saying is, how do you're saying you're creating a structure around how to think about those things and how to talk about them, so that you're planning to be agile in your implementation of your tasks to get to your milestones.
Yes.
So let me back up. Let me say that again, because that was a lot of word salad. So you've got your 3 goals for the year. You've broken them down to 12 monthly goals. You have your line level people recognizing that within those 12 months, they've got 4 weekly goals they have to hit. But you're also, and I want to ask you about who's doing that meeting. You also have a plan for if you come into a situation where the environment changes and you're not going to hit those goals and you have to pivot. Part of agility planning, if I'm understanding you correctly, is having a process to reevaluate what those goals are and to modify them in some sort of way so that you can still get to your 3 goals, but it may look different. The delivery of those things look different.
Now, as you were saying that, I'm thinking our listeners are going to think, man, that's a lot of meetings. But really, first you're having your strategic planning meeting. Then you typically, if it's a company of any size, will have a monthly leadership meeting. And again, Rhythm is a great book to help you figure out, do we meet monthly? Do we meet quarterly? Or your third party consultant can help you.
Daily stand-ups, right? I mean, I think, I think Rhythm does a good job of really helping you understand that it's not a monthly 3-hour meeting.
Right. It's a touch point.
It could be a 15-minute.
So I think with your leadership team, because again, this is a culture shift, right? So you have to be in an environment where people trust that they can have a conversation with you. So if someone in your agility planning, hey, okay, here's our 30-minute touch point for the day, everybody do a call out, and someone says, hey, I know we're going in this direction and this is not working. What's absolutely working? Well, okay, you just killed why it's not working. So the leader would need to be able to have an environmental or a culture where there's trust in there, right? And if Scott and I were having a conversation and I say, hey, Scott, we have a hiccup here and I need to talk through it, Scott would typically say, what's the hiccup and how do you think that we can fix this? Tell me the problem, come with a solution. That's a good rhythm, and that creates a trusting environment. That way, you can handle that with the team that's doing the work. So then when you get in the leadership meeting, again, it's a trust thing. So the leaders are saying, here's where we're having some issues, and we may need to pivot a little bit. That doesn't mean scrap the strategic plan.
And I think that's super important. And that's where I was asking the question around the agility planning is not so much a plan as a posture that we're going to constantly reevaluating where we are and where we are to hitting our milestones and what's working, what's not working, and having a process in which to talk about those things. And then having a process after those meetings to say, okay, you can't come out of those milestone meetings and those agility meetings and not have action.
Right. Everything needs action.
We live in an environment where everything around us is changing incredibly fast. And if you don't have the ability to internalize what the changes are and then externally say, this is how we have to go to market, you're going to end up chasing squirrels all day long.
And I think this is very important. You have to give things time to plant or to take shape, right? So the agility meetings are not about how to tear it down so that it doesn't work or how to just totally pivot in a random direction. Those meetings are to talk about, hey, if last week we said we needed to do X, Y, Z, which are very small steps to your big goal, and you did X, Y, Z, but now you may need to do Y and Z and not X.
Having a framework, knowing that, and this is why it's so important to have the facilitated Conquering Everest meeting, is that you come out of there with, these are our rock solid goals.
Yes.
Much like your vision, it's not going to change. We need to accomplish these three things. The methodology on how to get to those three things could change based on a variety of different inputs.
Yes.
Your comment around you have to let things work, while I agree 1,000%, because I've worked for companies where the owner would give us a task in our leadership team meeting, we'd go full force into it, and then he'd go home for the weekend and come back in and go, yeah, I changed my mind. We're going to throw all that away and start all over again.
Oh, that's terrible.
And it was infuriating because you're putting all this time and effort in. We don't want to be in a situation like that.
Right.
So there's this weird tension around how long, if it's not working, do you wait before you pivot? And I think what you said was perfect, that they're minuscule little changes.
Right.
Because we know where we're trying to go and we have a goal and we've done the work up front about how we're going to get to that goal.
Because they're realistic goals.
And we've asked the right people. If we get to, 25% more production, how is that going to affect the operations department, the sales department, the accounting department, the customer service department? And we've had all those discussions up front. So if we tweak one little thing, we recognize that it's going to downstream affect everybody. So how long do you wait before you make that incremental change?
So I think that's where your monthly or quarterly meetings come into play, right? So you can't change it. You can't start it on Monday and change it on Friday, unless it's the wrong people were in the room and it is so adversely affecting the other teams that we got to say, okay, we missed the mark here. You were talking about there was a team and the leadership team in the right heart and right spirit made a decision. Once the people that are doing the actual job received it, they had some, hey, you didn't think about, and the leaders didn't do it on purpose. But that team said, hey, let's fix it. Let's have the right conversations. So that's more what I'm going to.
Yeah. So you're saying there's some flexibility in the implementation.
Absolutely.
As long as everybody from top to bottom that are affected by this goal and these milestones, these stepping stones that we're working on, understands, hey, this is the stepping stone we're trying to get to. If it means that you have to, tweak this process or tweak that process, fine.
Right.
As long as it is an alignment. And I think that's where we talk about it all the time. They are incremental changes, not wholesale changes.
Absolutely.
You have got, and all of those goals, again, and this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but one of the things we work really hard at during our Conquering Everest meetings is to ensure that the goals you're coming up with are in alignment to your vision, mission, and values.
And
because if
are
they're
achievable.
Not, if they're not, if they are, let's do it that way. If they are, then those incremental changes along the way, you run them through the lens of, does it actually get us closer to this milestone, which we know gets us closer to this goal, which we know gets us closer to the vision.
Scott, I think that's where, and again, please make sure to watch the podcast around strategic planning, because if your leader is a true visionary, they will sometimes push the team to create an outlandish goal that is really not achievable. So when the people are trying to create the milestones from day 1 to day 365, it's hard. It's hard. So what happens is you pivot halfway through the year and you don't do a small pivot. You have a big pivot because you just can't get to the goal. So the team, it's a trust and a psychological safety factor, then get the mentality that we're throwing spaghetti against the wall. So back to what you said, you do all this work and then, we just can't achieve that.
Well, and I think what's interesting, especially from somebody from my background that's, my background was prior to starting the businesses was being a CFO. So it's very systematic in its very nature. And I often found myself in a position where I was the, hold on, you didn't think about this guy. And I had more than one founder go, dude, you can't be the no guy all the time.
Right.
And a friend of mine said to me, we have to think about situations where, and we talked about it a little bit of the last couple episodes, we were talking about what happens if you double or triple or 10 times your business overnight. His mentality is it's impossible unless, he puts the word unless. What do we have to do? Unless this is true, we can't achieve those goals. So when we're talking about the line level people going, there's no way we can accomplish that. He just said we're gonna 5 times our sales. There's no way. Having the leadership conversation to say, okay, there's no way unless what? That's where that innovation piece comes into play, where you get people starting to think. And then, and this is Chad Jenkins from SeedSpark, awesome visionary kind of guy. He said, the first thing I do is I say, unless, I literally write on the board, unless, and then I shut up. And I let them talk until they figure out an innovative way to get us from point A to point B.
Scott, I think in an upcoming episode, we're going to talk about conversation killers that leaders do. But I think what you just said about Chad is, again, there is a cultural mindset that you have to create. So with his team, he knows that if he writes unless and he stops speaking, his team is going to say, unless we move this box, unless we check this, unless we add here. then you can come away from the table and say, well, we absolutely can do it. And the whole mindset.
Oh yeah, no,
shifts.
I've watched it happen. I've sat in meetings, in the meeting with him where he's talking to his team, and you immediately go, it immediately switches from, oh, this guy's crazy, there's no way we're going to be able to accomplish this, and all it is him getting excited about some shiny new thing, to, well, hold on, I actually think we can do this, and it's going to take some extra work, but if we push this button and we turn this knob and we flip this switch, yeah, we can make it happen.
So back to the visionaries. So when you're in a room and you have a visionary, and a lot of faith-based companies will say, well, we have to have a God-sized vision.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you do. And a lot of secular companies will say, well, and unless we have this kind of vision, we can't, expand
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. All of those things are true. And that's why you are a visionary for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have to go back to, maybe in 10 years we can accomplish that, but in this 12-month period, what really can we get accomplished? Unless.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the vast majority of people don't think beyond what they can see. You've got a handful of those visionaries, the Richard Bransons and the Elon Musks of the world, and the Steve Jobs, those guys that go, okay, just because nobody has thought of it doesn't mean we can't do it.
Right.
I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to figure out a way to put, a personal computer on every single person's desk all around the world.
And in their pocket.
Yeah. And you're just like, yeah, no, you're out of your mind. I'm going to figure out how to colonize Mars. First of all, why? But that's a whole different story.
Right.
But the fact that visionary, the only reason they were successful was they were able to excite people and share the vision enough so that the rest of the team could rally around them to come up with the innovative ways to get from point A to point B.
That's a great point. So when you have, as a leader, and I often talk about the leadership challenge,
Mm-hmm.
if you are sharing the vision,
Mm-hmm.
enabling others to act, those two, and there's 5 practices, but those two, if you can do those well, then no matter where your seat on the bus is or
Yes.
where you
Yes.
sit in
Yes.
the company, you can take a strategic plan, a 12-month goal, using the agility principles or the rhythm method or whatever label that you want to call it, with a healthy team, and you can bite-sized piece that all the way to a successful, measurable goal that you ended the year with.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's where the agility, the agility planning comes from agile software development, where you take a giant software project and you shrink it down to bite-sized pieces. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about, this is going to be a little geeky, but it used to be a waterfall effect, they used to call it, where you would just do the process. So if I was going from this point A to point B, and there were 20 pieces in between, I did number 1 first, I did number 2 second, I did number 3, then so on and so on and so on. Agile development says, hey, number 12 is going to be the most impactful, the biggest value, the biggest win for the client. So let's do number 12 first, even though number 12 relies on these other ones. And I think that's what's interesting about the agile or agility planning, is that you say, we know our goals are big. We know our milestones are going to get us to the goal. Let's make sure that as we think about and as we have our metric meetings and our stand-up meetings, we need to be thinking of, boy, and if we change this one little thing, we could get to this goal faster.
All right. Scott, here's another thing that is super important we point out. Me, you, us, together.
The whole crew.
The crew. Okay. When you're thinking of agility planning, and Stephanie didn't come up with this. This is this is the new buzz phrase.
Okay.
The reason that this has started catching on in companies and cultures is simply because you used to do a strategic plan. Let's say you did it, Everybody then, during their annual reviews, would create an OKR or a KPI. They would be held accountable for their portion of the strategic plan. And you created an environment where you worked in silos. And if you were healthy, then you showed up once a month and you reported out on your part of the KPI.
Correct.
Agility planning makes it less I statement to project-based. So you are now in a collaborative workforce. So as we see the boomers retire and the alphas start taking the stage, agility planning is super important because in schools, they are now teaching. Because again, when we were in school, they taught do your own work, work by yourself.
Just do what you're told.
Right. Now they are teaching collaborative thinking. Agility planning really shifts your company from a silo to project collaboration.
Yeah, and there's no way you don't have enough leaders that are both visionaries and implementers and strategic in their mindset enough to be able to drive the company forward once it gets to a certain level.
Well, we're just not made that way as people.
Yeah, you can
right?
start that way as a mom and pop where, hey, you're everything. But at some point, the only way to scale your business is to have other people that are smart around you, whether that is employees or channel partners or innovators that are outside of your organization altogether that you happen to be in relationship with. That's the only way for you to grow. And if you are not taking advantage of the smart people on your team, shame on you.
Oh, you're missing
you're missing out a huge
portion.
gold mine of innovation that's going to be able to help you grow your business to the next level.
Super excited that you were with us.
Man, come on. Collaborate, innovate, transform. Let us all be smart about who we have on our squads and make sure as we're living with purpose, on purpose, that we are surrounding ourselves with people that are doing the same thing. So until next time, we will talk to you soon, and make sure to visit our website, subscribe to the podcast, do all the things you're supposed to do with social media so we get more followers, so we can give you more content. So until next time, see you later.
Thank you for listening to the Changemakers Collective. If you've enjoyed this episode, please help us grow our community by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or rating us on Spotify.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube, so you can come and leave us a comment over there as well. If you want support growing your business and scaling your vision, visit us at silverbackventures.org or connect with us on LinkedIn.
Thanks again, and we'll see you on our next episode.